I called the police the next day and had her sent to jail after my mother-in-law took out her anger on my daughter at home. My relationship with my mother-in-law is terrible, mainly because my firstborn was a girl. Right after I was wheeled out of the delivery room, I heard my mother-in-law say disdainfully, "Gave birth to a money loser." She didn't even glance at the child properly, throwing out the words, "Have a boy as soon as possible." She went back to her hometown that very night. A few years ago, I took my daughter back to my hometown for the Chinese New Year. Whenever Tian Tian made a little noise, she would scold and curse her with a stern, cold face. As a result, Tian Tian developed a stress-related fear response just from seeing her or hearing her voice. Now, 5 years have passed. My daughter has started kindergarten, and persuaded by my husband and relatives, I got pregnant with the second child early this year. I originally wanted to hire a housekeeper, but my husband quietly brought my mother-in-law over without a word, catching me completely off guard. I carried my daughter back to the master bedroom, called my husband, and gave him an earful. "Why did you bring your mother here?" My husband's words were light and casual. "That's our mom. If she wants to come, can I drive her away? Don't make a fuss over nothing." I felt somewhat helpless and said, Tian Tian cried from fright the moment she walked in and saw her sitting on the sofa. "And you still think I'm making a fuss? That's just because you've spoiled her. That's why the little girl isn't close to my mom." Hearing his words, I was instantly so angry my chest hurt and I hung up the phone directly. That evening, I was cooking in the kitchen with my pregnant belly. Tian Tian wouldn't leave my side for a second, clinging to the hem of my clothes and following me around the kitchen. She didn't even dare go back to the living room to watch her favorite cartoon. At the dinner table, my mother-in-law, Jizilan, had just taken a taste of the Westlake beef soup when she started spitting it out with a poot. Poot? Sanjay, are you trying to kill me? Why is this soup so sweet? Don't you know I have diabetes? You did this on purpose. She flung the soup spoon fiercely into the bowl and glared at me furiously. I was startled too, but before I could even gather my thoughts, my daughter Tian Tian started wailing. "Cry, cry, cry. All you know is how to cry. What are you wailing for, you little money loser?" I hurriedly hugged my daughter to comfort her, only to discover that her arm had been splashed with the hot soup and was all red. I had no mind to argue with my mother-in-law then, and quickly carried Tian Tian to the bathroom to rinse it with cold water. "Wail, wail, wail. All you do is cry. If you keep crying, I'll throw you in the trash heap and bury you. Useless waste." Jizilan's curses continued to pour into my ears from the living room. "Raising her so expensively is still raising a money loser. I must have been blind to let you two pieces of trash into this house. Poor my old kin family. 4 generations with only one son to carry on the lineage, and it's going to be ruined by you 2 lumps of rotten flesh." Tian Tian clung to my neck, trembling, even stifling her sobs. Seeing the panic and fear in my daughter's eyes, I felt intensely angry. Holding my daughter, I stood at the bathroom door and watched my mother-in-law, who was still cursing while shoveling food into her mouth with her chopsticks. There's just a bit of onion in the soup to remove the fishy smell. When cooked, it has a slightly sweet taste. If you don't like it, don't eat it. There's no need to scare the child by puffing up and glaring. She's your granddaughter, and also the kin family's daughter, not your enemy. Jizilan was stunned for a moment, then immediately slapped her chopsticks down on the table with a smack. "What did you say? You dare talk back? You good for nothing who can't even bear a son, you dare give me attitude? I'll beat you to death." Just as she was about to charge over, my husband's video call came through. Furious, I answered the video and shouted at the screen to my husband, "Can Shu Yuan, this is your mother. Look at your mother trying to beat us to death." I turned the phone around, wanting my husband to see Jizilan's ferocious expression clearly. In an instant, Jizilan performed a face change worthy of Sichuan opera. She snatched my phone. Her saggy old face transformed into a tearful downward curving expression. She squeezed tears from her fish bubble eyes, and saliva dripped from the corner of her crooked mouth. "My son, my darling, your mother is being bullied by them and feels so wronged. You're not home, and they even want to drive me away. My son, your mother has diabetes, and she intentionally put sugar in the soup, trying to murder me." That night, the argument with my mother-in-law left me feeling choked up and upset. I didn't sleep well all night. The next morning, groggy, I got up to take my daughter to kindergarten. When I returned, the leftovers and dirty dishes from last night were still on the table, untouched. There was no breakfast in sight. I glanced at the spare bedroom door. not knowing if the old lady had gone out for morning exercise or was holed up in her room. I didn't want to stay home, so I made plans with a close friend to go shopping. I rushed to pick up my daughter Tian Tian from kindergarten as it was almost dismissal time. "Mommy, can I not go home?" Tian Tian hugged me, her face showing hesitation and anxiety. I comforted Tian Tian softly. "What's wrong, Tian Tian? Do you want to go somewhere to play?" Grandma's at home. I'm scared." Hearing my daughter's words, my heart instantly ached painfully. I kissed my daughter on the cheek and immediately said, "Then let's not go home first. Mommy will take you to the amusement park." To care for my daughter's feelings, I took her to the mall, the amusement park, had dinner at the mall, and didn't head home until after 8 p.m. I just never expected that when we stood at our doorstep, we couldn't get in. No matter how I turned the key, it wouldn't go into the lock. I called the property management. After a while, they sent a security guard on duty over. "Oh, your place." The security guard on duty seemed to know something. A strange expression on his face. "In the afternoon, the elderly lady in your family told the property office she lost her keys. Mr. Kin specifically called to ask the property to find a locksmith to change the door lock." "You didn't lose your keys again, did you?" "The elderly lady in our family lost keys, changed the door lock." These words hit me, and I immediately understood. That old woman Ji Ziulan was causing trouble again. After the security guard left, I angrily kicked the door, shouting for Ji Ziulan to open up. I shouted for 7 or 8 minutes, but there wasn't a single sound from inside. I called Qin Shuyuan, but no one answered. I sent messages, but got no reply. Furious, I took my daughter and booked a room at a hotel near our residential complex. The next day, I received a call from Qin Shuyuan urging me to come home. When he saw Tian Tian and me, he complained, "I just went on a business trip, and you two are already at each other's throats. Can't you let me have a bit of peace?" Hearing Qin Shuyuan's reproachful words, a nameless fury rose in my heart. Have you ever seen a mother-in-law who locks her own granddaughter and daughter-in-law out of the house? Qin Shuyuan looked at me incredulously and scolded. "Mom said she lost the keys while out for a walk. You too. Going out wandering around with that big belly. She doesn't have your phone number. Couldn't find you. If she didn't find a locksmith to change the lock, where would an old person like her go? What if a thief broke into the house? I was so angry I was practically speechless. I never expected Ji Ziulan to turn the tables like this. My emotions were instantly ignited, and I became a bit reckless with my words. Is she deaf or paralyzed? I knocked on the door for so long last night, and she didn't open it. Qin Shuyuan frowned, pointed at me, and cursed. Unreasonable. Sun Jie, you are simply a venomous-tongued shrew. I'm venomous-tongued? I'm a shrew? Just as I was about to retort, I heard my daughter's tearful voice. "Daddy, Mommy, please don't fight." I quickly soothed Tian Tian again and stopped paying attention to Qin Shuyuan. As soon as I pushed the door open, I saw Ji Ziulan sitting on her luggage bag, wiping tears. "Mom, what are you doing?" Qin Shuyuan hurriedly rushed over and grabbed Ji Ziulan's arm. Ji Ziulan let out 2 dry, wailing sobs. "It's all your mother's fault. My mistake. Causing you to quarrel and making you upset. Mother has thought it through. As long as you, my son, are doing well, even if your mother grows old and dies alone in the countryside, I can face your father and the ancestors of the Qin family." She held Qin Shuyuan's hand, stroking it. "It's just, my child, before I leave, I have to entrust you with one more thing. Son, you are the only male heir of the Qin family for generations. The Qin family's lineage must not be cut off by you." Tears welled in Ji Ziulan's fish bubble eyes. She stood up, picked up the bundle she was sitting on, and was about to leave. "Mom," Qin Shuyuan hurriedly stopped her, holding her arm, and roared at me. "Sun Jie, what exactly do you want? Must you force my mom to kowtow and apologize to you? There is no thief like an old thief." Ji Ziulan's move of retreating in order to advance was truly a masterful performance. I watched Ji Ziulan's act coldly. I didn't want to tangle with her anymore. Whether she left or stayed was up to her. Ignoring Qin Shuyuan, I carried Tian Tian back to the master bedroom. We had stayed at the hotel last night, and I hadn't even helped her bathe or change clothes yet. When I took the change of clothes and carried Tian Tian to the bathroom to wash up, Ji Ziulan was no longer in the living room. The door to the spare bedroom was closed. I could only hear Ji Ziulan and Qin Shuyuan talking in their dialect, muttering and whispering. Although I don't speak their local dialect, after being married to Qin Shuyuan for 7 or 8 years, I can understand the meaning of some words. I could hear Ji Ziyulan saying something about facial features, 8 characters, a Chinese astrological concept, fortune-telling, grandson. I silently cursed, this old witch, so superstitious and audacious. For the next few days, Ji Ziyulan and I both had sour expressions. Tian also didn't dare be alone with Ji Ziyulan and needed to sleep with me every night to feel at ease. At 20 weeks pregnant, Qin Shuyuan drove me to the hospital for the Down syndrome screening and routine blood tests. But Ji Ziyulan actually insisted on coming along, which annoyed me immensely. After drawing blood in the phlebotomy hall, Qin Shuyuan eagerly took a cotton swab to press on the puncture site for me. He was clumsy, and even while pressing, quite a bit of blood still oozed out, staining the cotton swab red. Angry, I hit his arm, pushed him away, turned around to borrow a cotton swab from the nurse, and pressed on it myself. When I turned back, I saw Ji Ziyulan scurrying away, wobbling as she went down the escalator. "What's your mom doing?" I asked, puzzled. A flicker of embarrassment and awkwardness passed over Qin Shuyuan's face. Oh, Mom has a bit of a stomachache. She went to the restroom. I didn't think much of it. There were still several prenatal checkup items, and I couldn't be bothered with Ji Ziyulan. Qin Shuyuan accompanied me into the B ultrasound examination room. The doctor held the ultrasound probe, scanning while explaining the fetus's organs and parts. I stared at the display screen on the opposite wall, which was showing the condition of the fetus. Even though this was my second pregnancy, seeing the child inside still felt miraculous and amazing. The fetus is developing normally. The mother needs to maintain a good mood. That will make the fetus healthier too. The doctor put away the probe and handed me a few medical wipes to clean the lubricant off my belly. "Doctor, looking at our child like this, will he be very naughty or very quiet in the future?" Qin Shuyuan, sitting beside me, suddenly asked. I was a bit surprised. Before I could figure it out, I heard the doctor say, "Health is the most important thing for a child." I glanced at Qin Shuyuan, then at the doctor, and didn't say anything. Ever since the prenatal screening, Qin Shuyuan had been acting strange for several days in a row. I thought he might be having difficulties at work, but when I asked, he said it was nothing. On Thursday, after taking Tian to kindergarten, I got a call from my mom around 10 a.m. saying my dad's condition had worsened and he was hospitalized. I'm the only child in my family. After getting married, I don't live in the same city as my parents. After hanging up, I rushed to the high-speed rail station. It took 2 hours to get back to my hometown. And then I hurried straight to the hospital without stopping. At the hospital, seeing my dad lying on the hospital bed made my heart ache and tears flow. My dad worked too hard when he was young. After I got married, he was diagnosed with chronic gastritis. In recent years, my mom has been taking care of him at home, helping him recuperate. Although the probability of chronic gastritis turning into cancer is small, if it progresses further to atrophic gastritis, the probability increases significantly. Fortunately, it was just a false alarm. The doctor strictly instructed my dad to quit smoking and drinking. He could be discharged after staying for observation for 2 or 3 more days. Knowing my dad was okay, I thought of Tian again. I hurriedly called Qin Shuyuan and asked him to pick our daughter up from school. A little after 7 in the evening, Qin Shuyuan video called me. As soon as I answered, I saw Tian's little face appear on the screen, looking upset. "Mommy, when are you coming home?" Watching Tian's tears fall, my heart ached. "Be good, Tian. Grandpa is sick, so Mommy is here taking care of him. Listen to Daddy, okay?" Seeing my daughter's pitiful expression, I instantly wanted to fly back, hold her in my arms, and comfort her. "Where's Daddy?" I couldn't see Qin Shuyuan or hear his voice. Tian glanced cautiously outside the screen and whispered, "Mommy, Daddy and Grandma are talking in the small room. Call Daddy over. I'll tell him to bring you to Grandma's house tomorrow to stay for a couple of days, okay?" Tian immediately broke into a smile. "Really? Daddy!" Through the screen, watching the shaky footage, I guess Tian was holding the phone and running to find Qin Shuyuan. As the video flashed, I caught a glimpse of Ji Ziyulan's sinister old face and Qin Shuyuan's slightly gloomy gaze. Without overthinking it, I said to Qin Shuyuan, my dad is in the hospital these days, so I won't be coming back for now. Kindergarten is off tomorrow. Could you drive Tian to my mom's place to stay for a couple of days? My parents miss their granddaughter too. I noticed Qin Shuyuan's expression. He seemed to be suppressing anger. His face flushed. Anything else? If not, I'm hanging up. Qin Shuyuan's tone was cold and devoid of emotion, which made me uneasy. I wanted to talk to Tian a bit more, but he ended the call. When I called back, no one answered. On Friday afternoon, I tried calling Qin Shuyuan repeatedly, but no one picked up. Reluctantly, I sent a voice message to Tian's kindergarten teacher. Tian's mom, did you not know Tian was absent from kindergarten today? Hearing the teacher's message, I grew restless. We'd agreed just last night that Tian would come to my parents' place after school. Why was she suddenly absent? Starting to panic, I didn't dare tell my mom the truth. Instead, I lied and said I had a prenatal checkup over the weekend and needed to go back home for a bit. When I rushed home by high-speed rail, Qin Shuyuan wasn't there. Tian was gone too, and so was Ji Ziulan. The whole family was missing, and I couldn't reach anyone by phone. I was frantic with worry. I immediately wanted to go to Qin Shuyuan's company to look for him. He had been distracted lately, maybe work wasn't going well, and he'd taken Tian to the office to work overtime. While waiting for my ride-hailing car at the entrance of our residential complex, I glanced at the square dancing crowd nearby and suddenly noticed a figure who looked a lot like Ji Ziulan. I quickly walked over and took a closer look. It really was her. Mom, where's Tian? I rushed in, anxiously grabbing her arm. What are you doing? Let go! Seeing it was me pulling at her, Ji Ziulan immediately pulled a long face. Ignoring her hostile attitude, I asked again, where's Tian? Under the dim light of the square, I thought I saw a flicker of panic in her expression, but she quickly hid it. A trace of hatred flashed in her eyes as she scolded. Like mother, like daughter, both rotten and cheap. I was kind enough to give her a bath, but she wouldn't listen and even bit me. Even a dog knows how to wag its tail and please people. But she's nothing but an ungrateful wretch. That little brat was throwing a tantrum last night, accidentally hurt herself, and my son has already taken her to the hospital. Hearing Ji Ziulan's insults and the news of Tian's injury, anxiety and fury surged through me. I was so angry I slapped her across the face. What did you say? Grabbing her arm, my eyes blazing red, I shouted, how did she get hurt? Why was she hurt? Which hospital did you take her to? Ji Ziulan was stunned by my slap. Then she collapsed onto the ground, wailing and howling. Oh, heavens! Everyone, come and see. This is my daughter-in-law. I kindly helped take care of her child, worked tirelessly without asking for anything in return. And this is how she treats me, slapping and trying to strangle me. As her mother-in-law, I'd gladly give my heart to serve them, but she's still not satisfied. The more people gathered around, the more energized she became, slapping her thighs and crying out, oh, heavens! There's no justice. My husband died young, and I struggled to raise my son all by myself. Who would have thought this woman would be so wicked? She stole my son, and now she wants me to be her slave. My life is so bitter. Heaven has no eyes. I might as well drink pesticide and die, so I won't be tormented by this woman and put my son in a difficult position. Ji Ziulan only had these three tricks: slander, insults, and making a scene. But it was exactly this shameless behavior that left me defenseless time and again. The crowd, unaware of the truth, looked at me with condemnation and disgust, making me feel as if needles were pricking my back. Just then, my ride-hailing driver called. I quickly pushed through the crowd and hurried into the car to find Tian. Once in the car, I kept calling Qin Shuyuan until he finally answered. I directly asked which hospital Tian was in, which floor and which room. Perhaps realizing he couldn't hide it anymore, he didn't lie and told me Tian's room number. When I rushed to the hospital and found the room, Qin Shuyuan wasn't there, only a nurse was doing her rounds. I saw Tian lying in the hospital bed, sleeping, with white gauze wrapped around her head and tear stains still visible at the corners of her eyes. My heart ached at the sight, but I still didn't know exactly what had happened to Tian. I stopped the nurse during her rounds to ask, "Are the child's mother?" The nurse glanced at Tian, then looked at me with some impatience. "How did your parents take care of your child?" She hit her head so badly it needed over 20 stitches. I was speechless, only feeling even more heartbroken. The child is stable after surgery, but there might be a minor concussion. She'll need further observation in the hospital. The news struck me like a thunderbolt. I sat by Tian's side, holding her hand, my whole body trembling. "My precious baby, Mommy is so sorry you got hurt." I felt overwhelming guilt for not taking better care of Tian. Half an hour later, Qin Shuyuan slowly walked into the room. Seeing him, my anger flared, and I slapped him across the face. He was stunned, as if he hadn't expected me to be so violent. I hissed in a low voice. Qin Shuyuan, how did Tian Tian get hurt? I was only gone for a little while, and Tian Tian got injured over 20 stitches on her head. What kind of father are you? And you left her alone in the hospital room while you disappeared. Are you even a man? Are you a responsible father? Qin Shuyuan's face turned red from my scolding, his eyes filled with panic. She didn't want to take a bath, kept running around hiding, and fell and hit her head. I pointed at him fiercely, about to berate him again, but the nurse snapped, "This is a hospital room. If you want to argue, take it outside. I need to go back to the office to work overtime. I'm leaving." Watching Qin Shuyuan flee, I felt regret for the first time about choosing this man. Over the past 6 months, I'd seen the changes in Qin Shuyuan. Especially since I got pregnant earlier this year, his business trips increased, and he often seemed distracted at home. Didn't he know what was going on or what kind of nonsense Ji Ziulan had been feeding him? In less than 2 weeks since Ji Ziulan arrived, he'd hidden from me the fact that his own daughter was hospitalized with stitches. His indifferent attitude in the face of my accusations chilled me to the core. The entire day had been filled with fear and frantic rushing, leaving me utterly exhausted. I stayed by Tiantian's hospital bed, dozing off with my head resting on my arms. I don't know how long I slept, but I gradually woke up to the sound of people chatting in the hallway. Honestly, in this day and age, is it that bad people have grown old, or have old people become bad? Exactly. No wonder people are afraid to help the elderly now. If it weren't for the surveillance footage as proof that young men would have been framed, that family doesn't look like they're short on money, yet they still try to extort the guy who helped. They really have no conscience. There are too many heartless and immoral things in society these days. Forget it. Forget it. The conversation woke me up. I glanced outside the door and saw 2 young nurses walking by. They were probably talking about a young man who helped an elderly person and got framed, only to be cleared by surveillance footage. Surveillance footage? That word suddenly jolted me awake. Back when Tian Tian was just 1 month old, I was a full-time mom handling childcare and housework. But occasionally, I had to go downstairs to take out the trash or buy groceries. So, I bought a camera with a built-in 128GB memory card and installed it in a corner of the living room. Qin Shuyuan never knew about this. It worked great at first. Every time Tian Tian fell asleep, I'd place her in the living room and check on her through the phone app when I went out. But as Tian Tian grew older and started kindergarten, I gradually forgot about it. I'd even changed phones a couple of years ago and wasn't too sure if the camera could still connect. I immediately downloaded the app again from the App Store, logged in with my phone number, and to my surprise, it reconnected. Thrilled, I opened the camera to view the live feed and instantly froze. Didn't Qin Shuyuan say he was going to the office to work overtime? Why was he at home? I took my Bluetooth earphones out of my bag, connected them to my phone, and turned on the audio. Qin Shuyuan and Ji Ziulan's voices came through clearly in my ears, but their conversation sent chills down my spine, making my skin crawl. Son, you're the only male heir in for generations. The Qin family line must not die out with you. I told you long ago. Son Jay is a cheap woman, skinny body, small hips, can't bear sons. Yet you insisted on marrying her. When Ji Ziulan mentioned me, her expression turned vicious and resentful. I've lived long enough and don't have many years left. You should hurry up and divorce her. Do it right now. Make her take that little bitch she gave birth to and get out of our Qin family. Then, help me have a big fat grandson. I can still help you take care of him for a few more years and let me enjoy the happiness of family life. Mom, Qin Shuyuan seemed hesitant. Should we get another test? What if the previous one was inaccurate or fake? Ji Ziulan waved her hand dismissively, her tone resolute. That institution is professional. How could they be wrong? Her old face then lit up with excitement, glowing like greasy red paper. Besides, isn't that female boss you know already pregnant? I've had someone divine it. That woman is definitely carrying a boy. Son, listen to your mother. Take this chance to divorce that cheap woman, Son Jay. Kick her out, and you can properly marry that female boss. Then I can hold my grandson. Do you think your own mother would harm you? I didn't hear what Qin Shuyuan said next or see his expression. The camera feed suddenly felt like something demonic and repulsive. I quickly force-quit the app. I felt my entire world crumbling. My mind was a chaotic roar, and my spirit kept sinking, as if plunging straight into hell. In the past, when I couldn't reach Qin Shuyuan, I'd suspected he might be up to something outside, but I'd preferred to believe it was work-related stress, always finding excuses and reasons for him. Only now, hearing the conversation between Ji Ziyuan and Qin Shuyuan with my own ears through the camera, did I truly wake up. So, Qin Shuyuan's recent busyness and distracted state were all an act. He was busy taking care of a mistress outside, neglecting his family. Back then, he was the one who pursued me, who promised to love me forever and never betray me. For him, I quit my high-paying job, devoted myself fully to supporting him, becoming a full-time mom, taking care of our child in the house. Even though I clashed with Ji Ziyuan, I was afraid of putting him in a difficult position, swallowing my grievances and bearing them alone. I never imagined that risking my health to carry a second child for him would be repaid with such betrayal and cruelty. I also began to doubt Qin Shuyuan's claim that Tian fell and hurt herself. Bearing the pain in my heart, I opened the app again and searched through the videos on the memory card. The camera I bought had good functionality. It retained footage from the last 30 days. Tian was injured at home. If there was something suspicious, it must have been recorded. I scrolled through the playback function to yesterday's video, fast-forwarding to the time after Tian's video call with me last night. Suppressing my rage, I watched the footage, feeling as if I could kill those two beasts with a knife. Shortly after ending the call yesterday, Ji Ziyuan started cursing and dragging Tian from the secondary bedroom to the living room. Tian cried and resisted, but Ji Ziyuan only hurled more vile insults. Tian kept crying, "Daddy, save me! Mommy, save me!" But Qin Shuyuan never appeared. Ji Ziyuan dragged Tian across the floor as if she were a ragged cloth. Tian struggled to her feet and lunged at Ji Ziyuan, biting her on the back of the hand. Unexpectedly, Ji Ziyuan slapped Tian hard on the head. Tian lost her balance and hit her head against the corner of the TV stand. Blood immediately gushed from her head, staining half of her little face. Right then, Tian collapsed to the floor, convulsing. Even at that moment, Ji Ziyuan continued to insult Tian, calling her a faker and a cheap little brat. She even walked over to Tian and kicked her a few times. Only when she realized Tian wasn't moving did she panic and call for Qin Shuyuan, telling him to take Tian to the hospital. Beasts. Those two beasts. I couldn't watch any further. I trembled with fury. This was attempted murder, the murder of my daughter. I wanted to rush home right then and kill that mother and son. Looking at Tian lying in the hospital bed, my heart felt as if it were being sliced by knives. Even a vicious tiger wouldn't harm its own cub. Qin Shuyuan, you didn't even try to save your own daughter. Your heart is too cruel. I thought for a long time and finally decided to report this to the police. Tomorrow, when the attending doctor comes, I'll ask for all of Tian's medical records. I'll use Tian's medical records and the video footage as evidence to file a report with the police station. I want Ji Ziyuan to face the punishment she deserves. As for Qin Shuyuan, I no longer have any feelings for him. We'll divorce, and he must leave with nothing. In the middle of the night, Tian suddenly woke up frightened. Seeing me by her side, she was overjoyed. Through tears and smiles, she said, "Mommy is so good. When Mommy is here, she protects me." Hearing those words, I was engulfed by overwhelming guilt, feeling suffocated. I comforted my daughter until she fell asleep. Looking at her peaceful, serene face, my resolve grew even stronger. The next day, neither Qin Shuyuan nor Ji Ziyuan came to the hospital. I asked my best friend to temporarily care for Tian at the hospital. Armed with the diagnostic records from the attending physician and a copy of the video showing Ji Ziyuan assaulting Tian, I went to the local police station to file a report. As Tian's mother and her legitimate guardian, I have the right to ensure that anyone who harms my daughter, even if that person is her direct relative, her own grandmother, faces the punishment they deserve. When I returned home with 2 police officers, I saw Ji Ziyuan throwing something into a large black trash bag. I glanced at it. Inside the bag were all the family photos I had put up around the house. I scoffed coldly and said to the officers, "That's Ji Ziyuan. She's the perpetrator who intentionally harmed my daughter. I didn't do it. It's not me. This is a false accusation." Ji Ziyuan began wailing loudly. She pointed at me, hurling insults and curses, mixing dialect with vulgarities. Her face twisted as if she wanted to devour me. "You cheap bitch, framing me. Officers, this slut is slandering me. You should arrest her." Perhaps because she was elderly, the officers initially tried to reason with and admonish her. But Ji Zilong wouldn't listen. She even seemed to think the officers wouldn't dare do anything to her. The officers and I watched as she ran into the kitchen and came out holding a kitchen knife, charging at me. At that point, the officers could no longer remain calm. Both rushed over, pinned her to the floor, and handcuffed her. Sanjay, what are you doing? Just then, Qin Shuyuan walked in through the door. Seeing Ji Zilong pinned to the floor by two officers, his expression changed drastically. Qin Shuyuan, you beast. Even a vicious tiger doesn't harm its own cub. Tian's injury happened because of your negligence. I thought I could face Qin Shuyuan calmly and directly bring up divorce. But I overestimated my composure. I lunged at him, trying to slap him. Sanjay, you cheap slut. My mom didn't hit Tian. I told you. It was an accident. That girl wouldn't listen. My mom was trying to give her a bath. She refused, and she bumped into the table corner herself. What the hell are you doing? Are you insane? Qin Shuyuan was still lying, still covering up the truth. After his outburst, he turned to the officers. Officers, my mother has diabetes and heart problems. Is this how you treat an elderly person? Is this justified? A young officer replied sternly, Sir, your mother just attempted to assault Miss Sun with a knife. We took appropriate action. Please do not interfere with official duties. Hearing the officer's words, Qin Shuyuan turned to me, furious like an enraged lion. Sanjay, it's you again. My mother was right, you're nothing but trouble. I never should have married you. Suddenly, I felt a pang of pity for Qin Shuyuan. Even now, he didn't understand why I had called the police. He didn't even realize I knew all about their schemes. Sanjay, I'm begging you, please stop tormenting my mother. Our Qin family can't take any more of this. I shouted back. No, when she assaulted my daughter, when you stood by and did nothing, when you conspired with your mother to frame me, my heart died then. I won't rest until you beasts face justice. I laughed bitterly. If you don't want people to know, don't do it. Did you really think your little schemes could defeat me? I pointed to the corner where I had installed the camera. Heaven sees everything you do. All your plots were recorded frame by frame. Qin Shuyuan followed my finger and finally noticed the camera hidden above the living room air conditioner. He collapsed to his knees, staring blankly at Ji Zilong. Ji Zilong, hearing my words and looking at Qin Shuyuan and then the camera, twisted her old, wrinkled face into a vicious snarl. You're trying to end our Qin family line. I'll fight you to the death. I was hospitalized, in the same hospital as Tian. Ji Zilong, taking advantage of the officer's momentary lapse, charged at me while still handcuffed. She slammed into my stomach, and I fell at the doorway. After a sharp pain, blood flowed from my lower body. The officers quickly subdued Ji Zilong again and called an ambulance to take me to the hospital. My second child was gone. I had miscarried. My mother eventually found out. After my father was discharged, she came to take care of Tian and me. The house was in my name, but my mother was afraid to take Tian back to live there. She feared Ji Zilong might have been malicious enough to poison the kitchenware or dishes, and we might accidentally be harmed. During my hospital stay, I kept thinking about what had happened to Qin Shuyuan. Qin Shuyuan lost his father as a child and grew up in poverty. Ji Zilong played both mother and father, pulling him up through sheer force. He had always been filial and obedient to her since childhood. Calling him a mama-ass boy was an understatement. All these years of marriage, the reason I tolerated and yielded to Ji Zilong was to avoid putting him in a difficult position. Qin Shuyuan often told me things like, don't bother arguing with an old country woman, or what kind of person doesn't respect their parents. It made it hard for me to be harsh with Ji Zilong or cut ties with her. I accommodated his filial piety and considered his feelings, never imagining it would come to this. During my recovery, with nothing else to do, I revisited the playback videos from the camera. I started watching from when Ji Zilong first arrived at our home. As I watched, I finally understood. All their schemes had taken place right there, openly, in the living room. Back when Qin Shuyuan, Ji Zilong, and I went to the hospital for the prenatal screening. After I had my blood drawn, Qin Shuyuan helped Ji Zilong secretly keep the cotton swab with my blood. Then Ji Zilong took it to a shady institution that used my blood to determine the gender of the second child, a girl. It was this result that became the final straw for Qin Shuyuan. He completely sided with Ji Zilong, becoming an accomplice in harming Tian. Even before that, he had already betrayed me by having an affair. After I was discharged from the hospital, I took Tian back to my hometown. A few days later, a haggard-looking Qin Shuyuan came to find me. He knelt at my doorstep, begging me to write a letter of forgiveness. Without it, Ji Zilong could be sentenced to around 7 years in prison for intentional injury. As I looked at him, I remembered the first time I saw him over a decade ago. That confident, spirited, and vibrant Qin Shuyuan seemed to have vanished from this man. All that remained was endless darkness and malice. I didn't curse him. Instead, I handed him 2 copies of the divorce agreement. My meaning was clear. If he wanted the letter of forgiveness, he had to agree to the divorce terms. The main terms were 3. First, Qin Shuyuan voluntarily relinquished custody of Tian. Second, he agreed to let Tian change her surname. Third, he agreed to leave the marriage with nothing. Qin Shuyuan held the divorce agreement, silent for a long time, before finally signing and fingerprinting it. As required by law, I handwrote a letter of forgiveness. 2 weeks later, my lawyer brought me the trial results. Ji Zilong was sentenced to 3 years in prison for intentional injury. Some say marriage is a woman's second chance at life. Perhaps my luck was truly unfortunate this time. I chose wrong, and it brought me unimaginable pain. But I am grateful I found my way back in time. The world holds too much malice toward women, but I am thankful I woke up early. Not only did I free myself from Qin Shuyuan, but I also ensured that Ji Zilong, that demon of a mother-in-law, faced the punishment she deserved. Though my nominal family fell apart, I gained freedom. From now on, I will protect my daughter with all my strength, ensuring Tian never suffers abuse from anyone again. I will take her and start a new life.